Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the ATI podcast. We're in here for episode 149. Back to some St. Louis love this week. We're putting a spotlight on an amazing band we have here tonight, Fortunate Son. How are we doing, Fortunate Son?
We are very fortunate.
I love it. You guys actually kind of fell on my radar now. I know some of you guys from previous bands in the St. Louis area, so to be fair, I was probably always going to check out anything you guys did, whether that was some other band. But whenever that 7 Joints EP dropped early last year, that really was a breath of fresh air, particularly for me. It harkens back to, in my opinion, things like Botch. So, you know, one of my all-time favorite bands, one of the most influential bands on me as a musician as well. So anything that can kind of strike that chord immediately has resonance with me. And then, of course, I got the pleasure of finally seeing you guys at the 314 Punk Showcase as well, which I knew that you guys brought it live. And it's always something else to actually experience it in person, though, too. So had a great time there, too.
Well, good.
Let's kind of go around the room. We'll introduce everybody and what your occupation is in the band, what instruments you play.
My name's Luca. I play bass.
I'm Thad. I play drums. I'm Tony Spudo. I sing.
And I'm Chris, and I play guitar.
You gentlemen are all very good at your instruments in particular, and I know that you all are very talented outside of, you know, what your occupation is in this band, multi-instrumentalists and things of that ilk as well. People might be watching this tonight. You know, of course, we have a strong following in St. Louis and might see your guys' faces and think that you might be familiar from other bands. You guys care to share some of the other projects that you've been in, or are currently, I should say?
Currently, other than the Fortunate Son, I play in the Chandelier Swing, Like Heaven. I fill in from time to time with Wes Hoffman and friends as well, and formerly was in a band with Chris called Slow Damage.
And he plays a different instrument in every band.
Yeah, I was going to say, Like Heaven on the drums, which I'm loving the drumming in Like Heaven, Luca. Excellent. Love it. Ed, how about for you?
Yes, I am also in Ashes and Iron.
Wonderful band.
Previously, I was in the Control Machine. I've been playing in bands since 1997.
Wow. Awesome.
I was in a band called Live by Mistake, which was on Lambda Records for
Yes, you were.
a time. And then most recently, Alan Smithy. And I still play in 2 improv groups, Past Life Tiger, which is members from Not Waving, The Drowning, and Daybringer. And then improv artsy fartsy group called Key Grip. Generally members of like CBGBs. Interest Central is one of them, but it's also people with, they need machines for flying. It's a lot of those guys. A lot of the South Grand musicians that I came up with, I was doing a band called Mill Effect, and I really got in touch with some of those dudes. And me, Brian Fleshy, worked at Creepy Crawl forever. And also, I'm the owner and operator of Platypus, which hosts a lot of music. It's dear to me, and some of it's not. But mostly, yeah. Fleshy still works with me there. We've been going strong since I started hanging out at Creepy Crawls.
I was in a band called Everything Went Black. We were on Prosthetic as well. Actually, Thad played on one of our 7 inches. And then I was in a band called Slow Damage with Brandon, who was in Everything Went Black, and Luca. And now I do this. So, yeah, I'm really lucky to have the opportunity to play with these guys because they're my friends for the longest time. Always really great musicians. And I always looked up to them for their musicianship and stuff. So it's just a privilege to be able to play with such good guys.
And I have to mention, I miss a lot of those projects that you guys used to be a part of as well. You know, Live by Mistake, Tony was a huge band for me. I remember when you guys played Nature's Cup in Farmington. I lived in the apartment above that and worked the door. I was there front and center for that show. And man, that was an amazing show. It's something that always sticks with me.
Past Life Tiger played that place too with Marcus and Calvin. So we still do shows every once in a while.
Yeah, I got to see a more recent show with you guys. It's been a while since I've seen Past Life Tiger play. Well, and then of course I have to mention Everything I Went Black. I feel like Heaven is kind of filling that gap for me musically out of the St. Louis scene a little bit. I absolutely love Everything Went Black. I saw you guys so many times in St. Louis. I'm trying to remember the last time I saw you. I'm pretty confident I saw you open for Converge one time, but too many countless shows. That's the one I can remember for sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, that was a good run. I mean, that was a lot of those guys, but it's your mid-20s and nobody's shit is together at all, and you're trying to do this band for a long period of time, and you try to do tours. Like, so we got offered like to go to Sound and Fury, but we could never work out the tour to actually go to Sound and Fury. So we never got that opportunity. So it's just hard being in a band and you're all broke and you're trying to make this thing work. And it just didn't have the longevity that I wish it had. But now I have this to fill that void. So I'm very happy with that.
Absolutely. And you got to give some love to Ashes and Iron as well.
Thanks,
Legends of St. Louis. I think the last Ashes and Iron show I saw was probably with Oh Brother. So that's been some time back at the Firebird.
Firebird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love playing with those dudes. That was a fun ass show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a solid ass show. I believe Firebird Suite played that show also. It was a good time. Good time. Miss the Firebird. That was my favorite venue for the longest time, and St. Louis. And got to give a little love while we're here to Tony for the work that he's doing over there at Platypus. A lot of incredible shows I've already seen over at the Platypus, and a fine establishment. Even if you just want to go in and have a drink and hang out on the patio on the back, or catch the DJ, do some karaoke or whatever the case is.
Fun to visit.
No, it's fun. Yeah.
It's boring.
Also, if you ever, honestly, everything went black meant a lot to me as well. Brandon and I worked together at Creepy Crawl and Two Cents Playing Forever, the vocalist. And he's like a brother to me. The original guitar player is actually the mural behind the bar is owed to our friend Shaggy.
And I'm honored that I got to play that 7-inch that I got to play on that Chris was talking about. Shag was Shaggy's last musical output.
Yeah. There's a test press of Everything Went Black where me, my ex-wife, our good friend Katie Brown are all on it. My other very close and probably I used to call him my soulmate, but Chris played guitar on that record, and that meant a lot to me too.
And Matt Amelung recorded it.
Nice.
And got his soul too, yeah. But yeah, he was an amazing person for local bands to get great recording quality.
That band included people in and out of my musical life since pretty much I bought a car and left my house, and I just started living in music venues. And that band always meant the world to me because it was watching my family. It's actually how I became close to Chris. Him and I kind of came from two different sides of the music scene.
Yeah, you mentioned 2 Cents Playing, man. That venue, I haven't talked about that one in a long time. I kind of miss that venue. Kind of miss it.
I used to be in that. I did forget to say 2 Cents Playing. I also was in the Disappear. Started that band with Dan and Brad many moons ago at Pookie. Asked Gabe to replace me. I was going back to school. So anyway, sorry, 2 Cents Playing reminded me of something. We played there with Yes.
I have a bit of an infamous memory of 2 Cents Playing. The first show that we played, I think the first time I was there was a show that I played there, and when I showed up there was dog shit all over the floor. So yeah.
No, brothers, those two brothers would let their dog just hang out there.
What the fuck?
And then like they wouldn't take care of it, so they would just shit all over the fucking place. Then I walked off and we would like clean it up.
If I hose that shit down?
It was a wild venue.
Oh yeah, because Brandon ran down there too.
It was.
In there.
Yeah. I remember Brandon running sound there as well. I think that was perhaps the first time I actually met or spoke to him. And I got the impression that he didn't like me, but you always have that adversarial by default thing with the sound guy at any venue. I feel like you're trying to feel out the relationship, right? And like, is this guy going to be cool with me or is he going to be a dick to me?
And yeah, it makes me think of Jerry way back in the 90s, Jerry Bosher. Yeah.
I kind of spoke to it earlier. To me, I reserve all judgments for bands. I'm always apprehensive to give them a lot of love until I've actually seen them live and what they can produce in a live setting. It's one thing to sit in the studio and crack out some tracks and, have a nice polish to what you do, but to be able to execute it live and bring that energy, it takes a band to a new level for me personally. I know for many other folks it does as well. And you guys are certainly a band that brings the live performance.
Well, that's our bread and butter. Like, we've been practicing with each other before we were even Fortunate Son. And then 2020 in the fall, we started practicing with each other then. And it's always been really about practicing, hanging out with each other every Wednesday night, getting together, writing songs. And then everything that comes after that is just the good stuff. Like playing the show is the good stuff. Doing the recording is the good stuff. But the meat and potatoes of what we want to do is hang out and write stuff together and write cool stuff that we like. That's the point of it. So if we're not good live, then there would be a big issue there because that's what
Definitely.
we want to do,
Yeah, because all is that folks can't show up like yourself, like you're saying, and feel the energy. Like that's the point. That's the reason we're up there. You're standing there watching us. You know what I mean? Or so you want an experience, and so that's what I'm there for.
Plus, I work so much. Besides my employees, I don't spend any time with anyone more than these 4 people and my son. It's pretty much the most social connection I have. So that's a huge thing for me, and it's a huge outlet because they know I have a lot of crossed wires. On a personal level, I think that comes out live too. It's just I'm kind of in place, and I'm working through shit every time I play. But I don't even know if it's cathartic or I'm in like a place of chaos, but it's like a kind of primal, It's fun, great to get to do it with three of your best friends.
I would definitely say it's cathartic. The live shows are definitely cathartic. It's a release. It's necessary. I think if I didn't have that or like aggressive music in general, I would be a much more aggressive.
Isn't that weird that aggressive music actually makes you a more calmer person?
Yeah.
The other times that you're not listening to aggressive music or playing aggressive music.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to smash people with loud guitar. That's like I want to play guitar and I want to play out of full stacks at high volume and I want people to feel. And that's why I love these guys. Bass is rocking, drums are rocking, vocals are on your face. I want to smash somebody as soon as they see us.
Yeah.
That's what the impression I want to leave them. If they just got hit by a freight train. So that's what I want.
Yeah, because the adrenaline that comes behind that on the performance side has like a euphoric state, deliver euphoric state in the moment while performing. And so that has like positive carryover effects into kind of the psychological state. And so, like I said earlier, I've been in bands forever for like 26 or 7 years. I've been playing in bands. And only 2 years in that time frame have I not been in a band. And it was in like 2002-ish to 2004-ish. I wasn't in a band, and I didn't realize that over that 2-year window, I had like become a miserable, kind of unhappy-ish person. And then when I started playing music again, all of a sudden, especially after shows, but even just really just jamming with people and working on songs and stuff, I began to notice a general uplift in my spirit. And then I realized, holy shit, it's coming from playing music again. Like I fucking have to play until my body physically can no longer play. Otherwise, I will, I'll lose my mind, kind of sort of deal. It's absolutely like selfish for my own mental health, yet simultaneously in the live performance, absolutely not selfish at all. But fully participatory of everything.
It's necessary. I always feel like I second guess myself in every aspect of my life, except for when I'm on a stage in front of people. That's when I feel confident and where I feel like I'm supposed to be. So I'm going to make everybody pay attention.
I could see that totally. Now, when did you guys start as Fortunate Son? How did that idea come together that, okay, we're going to make this type of music? What were those early conversations like, and when did that start?
Well,
You kind of pieced us together, I think.
Well, you and Dad were kind of hanging out.
yeah, like in November of 2020, Chris and I started getting together jamming.
And then I think during COVID, I got kind of like into this more kind of rocky stuff. I went through a whole Stooges phase, listened to every podcast about the Stooges and listened to Stooges nonstop. I think I reached out to Chris and was like, hey, we should do this fun band. And I think I mentioned like Piss Jeans and.
I think you said Napalm Death and the Hope Conspiracy.
Really?
Yeah, is what I think you said. I want to do a band that sounds like Napalm Death and the Hope Conspiracy. I think that's what.
You were like, shit.
I've definitely said Piss Jeans.
I do remember saying that band.
I don't
way
think I
early on. Now that band was no Piss Jeans. That band was in your life.
But like Hope Conspiracy, Napalm Death, I really don't.
I love it.
To draw me in was like, hey, we should start a band of things that you like too.
Little bait.
I think we just ended up sounding like ourselves.
Yeah.
Sure.
At the end of the day. I don't think we could sound any different. I think you get into bands, you write songs, and then that's who your personality is, and that's what you show off. And it would be difficult for me. And it seems like some St. Louis bands do this, where they're like, well, let's sound like this band, and this band. Right. And they try to do that. And I think that's a hard thing for me to ever accomplish. I think it's always going to be just what comes out of me. And if I try to push it into another direction, then I know it's kind of garbage. And I don't even think I want to share that with anybody. So I just be my authentic self. And that's what comes out, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, it works out that way. I think you see that more with younger bands, but we've all been playing music for a long time. I feel like I'm the best version of a vocalist that I've ever been now. It's just the time and training. Like when I was doing Live a Mistake, I was actually taking opera lessons at the same time. And I was growing that way and I was playing piano more. And now like I can construct melodies better. I can actually like hear things and like practicing just singing, clean singing, and then being able to use those skills and put it in an aggressive environment. I think I finally got to a point of that. Like the 7 Joints was the first time I've tried something melodic and it ended up on a record the way I hear it in my head pretty much my whole entire life. And I've been singing since I was pretty much a kid. So
you can't ask for better than that on recording.
Yeah, I think I first recorded Heaven at SGM Studios.
Oh yeah, Curtis.
Yeah.
Way back.
When I was 16. So now, 25 years later, I got a record that my head is actually projected onto, like that's what I hear in my head. So
His ADAT basement studio couldn't do that for you.
I do it for you. Still have a record.
Oh man, I fucking straight crop dusted the
Bless you. Bless you.
air mixing. Yeah, I don't remember what. They had a box fan because his AC was out. That's gnarly ass part. The box fan had dropped.
But this band is really fun because a lot of other bands I've been in, it's kind of like I would play with guitar players that are just like fucking. And I'm like, where the fuck do I fit? Where Chris thinks, some of my favorite bands, Trace Perrins from Mr. Bungle talks about this too. Like when he writes a song, he thinks about all pieces involved with it. And so like knowing when to give space and when to give breath, even not conversing it when Chris shows us new songs, like I almost know it's like what he's kind of seeing, I mean, we'll talk about it eventually, but like, I think the first song he wrote after we did Seven Joints, like it was like, he's got a feel for what I've been doing. And like, I felt like he even made space for me to like, kind of like expand on that and go for that, keep going deeper, really. It's been a really cool experience for me. Everyone's seen me do bands where it sounds like a fucking band's falling up or down the stairs. Like,
I love it.
Write pieces and like have like themes and like think about like what this sounds like as a whole song as a whole and not just trying to like jump in between like, fucking broken measures, It's been a cool experiment.
I kind of heard how the three of you started, but how did Luca come into the picture? I'm just curious. What's your early memories of getting involved, Luca?
You want to tell the bass player story?
Well, I think Luca was at the forefront of my mind, and we tried out different bass players, but Luca was doing other bands.
Busy man.
And I just like, there's no way he's going to have time for us. So we practiced with some different bass players, and they didn't really have time either,
Right.
And then eventually I was like, hey, Luca, would you be interested in this? And he's like, yeah, let me try, let me show up, So he came to practice, and I think all of us immediately was like, oh, this is it. This is what we've been wanting the entire time. And just the quickness that he picks up songs, his enthusiasm on the stage and off the stage. And it was just like, I should have asked that guy like at the very beginning of this, and we probably would have been 2 more albums deep into our career at this point in time. But it did give a lot of time for me and Thad to like really lock in as a unit. And that's something that people have told us, that me and Thad have a good relationship with each other. And I really like that. That means a lot to me because Thad's been my musical brother forever. And for people to notice that kind of brotherhood between the two of us is really important. But yeah, Luca was just like what we needed when we needed it. And I wish I would have been like, hey, you should have done this right at the very beginning, but I didn't want to bother him.
Getting to jump on things before it also just made it really easy for me because I just got to show up and learn the songs. I already had such like good fleshed out stuff. Like I'll add in my little frills here and there, but like it was ready to go. I was like, fuck yeah.
It was interesting though, because as soon as Luca played, it was like, oh, this is our sound.
Yeah.
Like,
It totally makes sense.
so and we were playing with 20 other bass players who were fine, but just never clicked right.
Great human being.
Yeah, great people for sure.
Yeah, what's interesting is you can play the same song with like 4 different people, and then once you get the right person, it's like, wow, what a difference this song now makes.
Yeah.
Just, it's not even a gear thing. I don't know what it is. And people say, oh, the magic's in your hands and all this other crap. And I don't necessarily believe that, but there's just definitely like a personality fit. And just, I don't know. It just, everything started to shine at that point in time once Luca was in the group.
You catch that every once in a while, like when Live by Mistake got their second drummer. The first time I watched him play through one of our songs, I was like, oh shit, we're a real fucking band now. Like I was like, we deserve to be playing with like Decapitation, Nine Distance, all those bands from back then, because it was like, oh, we got the fucking grip now. It's the mic, but it was just a different experience, and it made the whole band really like level up. And that's kind of the same feeling I had whenever I saw Luca play with us.
Yeah.
I think that there's something too. Now, this is just me speaking to actually finally seeing you guys live because this doesn't come through necessarily always in a recording, but you guys are all locked in rhythmically, which really makes a difference in a band in the live setting as well. You guys have a nice groove in the pocket, I believe, and Luca helps fill that space. I think that's where the compliment comes in for Luca, and I think that some of that probably comes in the fact that he can also play drums too. Anytime you got a drummer, somebody that's really good at drums playing bass, or vice versa. Just having that rhythm section locked in and of itself kind of gives the freedom to other pieces of the band to have a little bit more, I guess, discretion in what they do and what they play and how they can fill things out. So Chris, for you, for example, I noticed a lot of like, noise making and effects. And, whenever you play something angular, you have this nice meat and potatoes behind you filling in the space. Back to Luca, I think that's where he kind of helps fill the gaps for you guys. And I didn't hear your other bassists, so I can't speak to that experience, but it's something that I really liked about Luca's bass playing. He really fills the space nicely.
Thank you. I'm primarily a drummer. That's my main instrument. So I am a very, very much percussive oriented musician, even when I am playing bass or playing guitar. I attribute being able to play those instruments the way I do to being a drummer first. And it's kind of why it's easy for me to pick up on what Thad's doing, kind of to lock in with him really well, just because I'm also mentally approaching it as a drummer would. So it's like, oh, I see what you're doing there. Okay, I'll lock in with you that way. It's I just attribute it to that.
Whenever you guys went to go record Seven Joints, did you guys where did you guys get that done at? Was that encapsulated?
Yes.
Okay. Did you guys record with Gabe or? Yeah. All right. I figured as much. So
We're actually wrapping up a song with Gabe tomorrow. Tony's
nice.
going to some vocals for it. So we're going to put out a single. We're going to put out a music video. Steven Inman from Blight Future is going to direct the music video for us. So we should be getting that piece together around in June. And that song will come out as a single, but then hopefully by the end of like the summer, it'll be a part of a 4-song EP. So we're working on wrapping that up.
Are you guys leaning in the concept mind frame with the next EP, similar to or akin to like Seven Joints, the thematically at least? Can you talk about that?
I don't know. I mean, Seven Joints just came through because I think somebody's like, well, what's this joint called or something like that. And then it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, well, it's 7 joints. And obviously we're marijuana enthusiasts too. So that kind of worked out in our favor. So yeah, I don't know what a 4 blunts or 4 tokes or if that, or we should just kind of move on and call it something totally different. We haven't talked about that yet. Once we wrap it up, I think we'll start thinking of digging through Tony's lyrics to kind of make it relevant to whatever he's speaking. Because I think that maybe would be the disjunct from like 7 joints and what the lyrics are actually in the album. So maybe we might try to make it a little bit more cohesive, but we haven't got there yet.
Yeah, and as we were writing that first album, because we didn't have consistent bass lineup, and really it was when it started in November of 22, Chris and I were just kind of figuring out how to play together again. It had been a hot minute since we had played, and Chris, I don't know, relative to like how songwriting, probably fresh ideas that you were coming to the table with. So that was all new, digging into whatever creative well that is. And then, I had just been in Ashes and Iron since I had quit the Disappear in like 2009 or whatever. So I had been playing sludgy, atmospheric kind of sort of music. So I had to kind of relearn how to play differently because it had been a while since I had been in like a hardcore or hardcore adjacent or aggressive in that way, fast kind of sort of band. So we were figuring out who we were for kind of that time that we didn't have Luca anyway. And so 7 Joints is ambiguous enough of a name because it wasn't written thematically or conceptually insofar as the music is concerned. So it had to kind of sort of have a name that fit the creative wheelhouse that it came out of. Whereas now we're a band and we have a sound and a feel and an energy. And so we want to make sure that whatever we call this that we're going to put out is in line with that. I mean, it will be. It's not like we've got to make sure it's just naturally going to come out because now found who we are.
Do you guys feel like the new material is moving in a different direction or staying in the same wheelhouse? I'm just kind of curious because I know that kind of listening to what you guys are saying here tonight, some of what was written was somewhat established, and Luca just kind of came in and learned the songs. Is it getting even more collaborative? I'm just kind of curious to hear about that.
So I think the first few songs on 7 Joints are a little bit different from each other, and then the last 4 songs seem more congealed. And that's probably indicative of us not having a steady bass player.
Yeah.
I write the ideas for the songs, and then I bring them and we flesh them out. And the way that I do the ideas is that I want in every song for everybody to shine. So if it's like, I want just bass or drums at this point in time, or hey, we have a break here. Tony should say something really fucking awesome during this break. I think that's pretty important for any sort of songwriter
Absolutely.
that's steering the helm, is to allow everybody to shine and not think about yourself that much. And so I think, to answer your question, I think the next album that we do, we have 3 songs written for it, got to finish up the 4th song. I feel like they are more congealed together because we've had this amount of time to figure out who we are, especially now that everybody's together. And I'm writing smarter, I think, than I did before.
Well, I appreciate that type of songwriting, Chris. And, secondly, people talk about dynamics in the sense of quiet, loud, and that sort of thing when it comes to songwriting. But, those little implementations that you're talking about, allowing everybody the opportunity to shine at various times, whether it is a bass and drum break or there's a part to feature Tony's vocals, that's just adding to the recipe of what you guys are mixing up too. Yeah, I really like hearing that that's how you're approaching things. It's very wise. And, obviously over time you've learned these things that it's important to implement that as well.
Yeah, I think that's the first mistake that you make is just focusing on your part and then bringing it to your band with no idea of like how everybody's going to interact with you. It's so selfish to do it that way, I think. Yeah,
Context. You have context in mind.
yeah. I feel like, I can hear my idea of the song and then everybody ends up creating a better idea of that version of the song, right? Where it's like, oh man, that's a better drum part than I was hearing in my head. Awesome. But I gave you the space to work with the drum part, or yeah, do that bass fill at the end of this measure. And that brings it back in and it makes more sense and it matches Thad's drums are like, oh man, Tony really delivered on this line. I can't believe that he said this thing or something like that. So yeah, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to keep going, with all that sort of stuff.
I mean, I know there's different strokes for different folks in the sense of creativity and how things come together. But for me, that was always the most exciting thing is whenever you allowed people the room to flesh out their own ideas. I feel like, when everybody has a say in something collective like this, a creative collective, that you're more invested in what you're doing and it kind of uplifts spirits as well. Whether that's an intentional thing or not, that's just the results. So, I always love whenever I hear that bands are very collaboratively thinking of, how can we make everybody shine and give everybody the opportunity to flesh out their own parts too.
Yeah, and there's no stupid ego stuff too. Like, there's not like, oh, I'm trying to play a part that's more difficult than I can actually play, or I'm insisting on this one part and it has to be played like that, even though the rest of the band thinks it sucks. Like, if it doesn't work, just say, okay, cool, it didn't work. Let me go back to the shop and figure out some more stuff to do, and that ends up being way better than what I brought initially too. So just checking yourself, oh yeah, that does suck, and they're right. And I'm not getting mad at them and I'm not getting into a fight with them over it because I'm protecting it in some way. It's really stupid to think that way. Like, you got to think together as a group. So
at the end of the day, you want to put out the best result, and that's how you do it. Battle test your ideas for sure. Now, I know you guys have a lot of incredible shows coming up in the near future. I know one of which that I think is an amazing and perfect show for you guys to be on. We mentioned Blight Future earlier. They're playing along with you guys, and that's going to be at the Duck Room, and that's with Coalesce and a legendary band that I think you guys are going to play amazingly with. Awesome to see them back at it. I had the good fortune of catching them at Furnace Fest. They closed out the first night there. So that was actually the first opportunity I ever even got to see them because they haven't been active for some amount of time. And I know that they're a very informative band for a lot of folks. And a lot of people still look at them as idols of their era, if you will. So I just kind of want to talk about how special of an opportunity this is for you guys.
Midwest represent. I mean,
Hell yeah.
It's cool. It's a Kansas City band, that's super amazing. Around since the 90s, like you said, absolutely iconic. I never got the chance to catch them live back in the day either, which is insane because I know they played a little creepy and shit like that. But for whatever reason, I just didn't. And I'm with you, actually. I was at Furnace Fest and caught their set in the shed. So I'm super stoked to play with them. Can't wait to see their energy and feel it in a more intimate environment than the shed.
I was at the back at that time in the night, and I ran into the Not Waving guys, so we were mixing it up there for a minute. But yeah, I'm really chomping at the bit at the opportunity to see it there. You had mentioned earlier too, Blight Future, kind of a member of the band doing some video treatments for you guys, and that's one thing I feel like that band does well. I mean, they're a great band as well. I absolutely love them, amazing musicians, but they really got the video aspect down too, especially with their social media and stuff. So I think that'll be a nice little thing for you guys to be releasing, and you've got the right people helping you.
I've known Steven since he was pretty young.
All are pretty young.
Growing up in the parts.
Yeah.
He has a lot of tenacity, I would say, with all things music and art inspired. And when he went into like all the different forms of media that now I would say he's a master at, like, it just makes sense. And he's
insanely creative.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy just oozes creative talent everywhere.
Just oozes out of everything he touches. I love being in the same room with Steven on all cases. to more of a tricky look.
Yeah, and that bill we're talking about there at the Duck Room with you guys playing with Coalesce and Blight Future, it's one of those cases that there's enough connective tissue between the artists that are playing, but everybody's vastly different. Might be an exaggeration, but you guys are all very different enough as bands and, your sound that it will have a nice dichotomy and offer a variety for folks. So I can't encourage folks enough to go and check out the show. We'll have the details and the links to go to the show and purchase tickets and all that stuff in advance to check these guys out at the Duck Room.
July 25th.
July 25th. So yeah, we got some time. So we're gonna get some folks out there to support you guys, whether they haven't seen you or they need to see you still. And then I know you guys have another show. Is that off Broadway? I can't remember what venue you guys. When's that one?
Yeah.
I'm excited to do it. I mean, I think that a lot of those hardcore legends from New York, especially, and around that area are going to be there. So that's kind of like a bucket list thing. I mean, and that's a diverse bill as well, too. Stay Sane's opening, and then we're playing after them, and then another band, The Take. And I think that's comprised
I think they're playing it.
Yeah.
With Murphy's Law.
And then Murphy's Law. So that should be fun, too. I'm excited to play our music in front of a different audience. But yeah, like the Coalesce show is like, that's like our blood vein. So I'm really excited for those people that haven't seen us that are interested in that type of music. I think they're going to like us too.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys would probably know better than me, but I believe the Duck Room suffered a fire here recently. I don't know how bad that is. I know they had to relocate my friend's Storm earlier, their show, on account of it, or postpone it, if you will.
Well, shout out.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I was slotted to play there that night with Wes Hoffman and friends, and Wes got the call like 12:30, 1 o'clock that day. That show ended up being moved to Del Mar Hall. I think that was one of the reasons. But yeah, it was something to do with the elevator.
Location TBD, maybe.
Okay. Out of curiosity, Tony, were you working the night of the Haywire show?
Yeah, I did. It was amazing.
Unfortunately, I couldn't make it because I had a podcast scheduled last Thursday with Destiny Bond. But how did the room turn out there? I got to catch them at LDB, and man, I really enjoyed them. I walked away even a bigger fan after seeing them live.
Cool thing was I was, I guess, anxious about how the band would react to the space, or like what kind of personalities I'd be dealing with. Their artwork really throws it all up in the air to me. But the coolest thing was I met the singer, and he was like, "This is your spot, right?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "They quote as 200-person capacity in here." I go, "It's happened." And he was like, "Bull fucking shit." He was like, "But this is the right move to do it." And he was like, "We toured all over Europe, and everything's legit." So they sell out a 150 person room, and he goes, "We go there and play, knowing that it's a sold out show, and it feels like no one's there." So like, the band was super appreciative of the space, and they had a fucking great time. Definitely core ethics of just like hardcore and being able to play in a room, and it was just a really highly positive event. I mean, but it was a great show. And I mean, nothing is what it was when we were coming up. I mean, like I was dodging people fucking having padlocks tied to their fucking fists and shit. This is
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It is much lighter hearted by comparison. For sure.
The whole show was great. I think it was about 140 people showed up, and everyone had a great time. The band had a great time, and they're super appreciative. And I left a fan of Haywire, which, I was not expecting at all. So it was really cool.
They're kind of getting quite the groundswell right now, and they seem to be, cats that are seasoned and have paid their dues along the way. So, sells that point that never too late for the dream to be realized, so, and I know they're on a very ambitious quest to, I think they're doing something like 93 dates or something obscene here over the next 18 months, which is crazy. And the goal was to play in every single state, including Alaska and Hawaii, I believe.
That's how you do it. Yeah. I mean, if you want to be in the mainstream view of people and stuff, you get your ass out there and you play any venue that you can get. And that's the hardcore ethos of it, is go to every single city, play every venue, and make fans, the old school way. So yeah, I appreciate that kind of work ethic.
Yeah. And at the end, he said that he came from some shit town in Ohio, his words, not mine, and saw, I forget what band, I think it was Death Before Dishonor. And it fucking made him just fucking get a plane to Boston and fucking play hardcore music. And like, those guys were all fucking super nice and really great people. It was a really good time. Like we had a blast. Like, I walked away kind of blown away about how great the night went.
That's awesome.
While you're on that aspect, I've seen working at Creepy Crawl and that being such a big part of my life. Like, I've seen the White Stripes play there. I saw Cursive play there when they came out with the Ugly Organ. Hatebreeds played there. Vision Disorders played there. I saw Dillinger play there in front of 4 people. Mastodon, same thing. And then you saw Mastodon sell out that room when touring on Leviathan. Like, I am confident and the idea that I am giving people space to see those bands that will be playing arenas in 10 years from now. It may be haywire, or like
Sure.
it's the same thing Matt does with Sinkhole too. I mean, Gel was on the same kind of
Trajectory.
trajectory until that shit happened with them. But like, you know, I mean, they played Sinkhole, and the next time they're going to come here, it's going to be the pageant. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, there's so many Trim in the Body, so many bands that have like played that little space in the
yeah,
next time they're coming through. It's
a
just,
lot of it comes from like when I was just trying to get every show in as many different cities as I could, and we would do these tours, and like every venue we played would just be a bummer because you're playing like one person. You play somewhere the size of Foo Bar, 19 people are there. Like, it feels like shit. They gave me fucking 30 bucks, and that's it. But then like I tell the story a lot, but I remember there was a show we played in Seattle, and I did not know how the fuck we were going to get to the next city. Like, we were out of money. I called my family up, and they're like, "This is the life you chose. Figure it the fuck out." Well, we'll just see what happens. We scrounged up enough merch, I think, that day. We got to Spokane. Spokane was this little house show. The basement was probably no bigger than this room, which is like a quarter the size of the Platypus room. It was very much like a hipster house, I would say. And no one was really talking to us at all, and just kind of felt awkward as shit. Show starts, we play, and after the first song, it was almost like, like you don't know where you're at. I mean, after the first song, the whole room's completely filled. People pushing up against the band. I'm playing keys and singing, and like I can't move. Like there's no space between any of us. There's people cramming the steps to watch us, and then like it turned into the whole thing. It turned our whole tour around. And remembering, I don't know if you're familiar with Grandma's house, but oh yeah, it was our good friend Mike from Sine Omnes grandmother's house. Yeah. I mean, they had Circle Take the Square there.
Yeah, that show was sick.
The Love Lost but Not Forgotten there. I saw the daughters there.
Yeah,
And I mean, some of those shows are some of the best shows I've ever experienced in my life. Whether,
totally.
One of my favorite shows ever was playing at a fucking high school cafeteria in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota. And just because one kid books fucking bands, it was the only thing that high school had going on. It was 30 miles south of the Canadian border. And we were the only thing. And like, we made like fucking $1,500 in merch that night. But money aside, it was like the first time like people were like, who do you listen to? Like, what are your influences? Like, what should I listen to? Like, what's going on? Like, tell me about music. Those experiences are pretty amazing. To be able to have a room that supplies that, and knowing that like they're going to be able to see these guys, pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's all part of community building too, in the sense that, and you can speak from that from two sides of the coin. You as a band, you're building a community for yourselves, and you can even look at the larger picture. I guess I would just characterize you guys as a hardcore band, but actually having those spaces though too that you can rely on, is very important as a band, whether you're traveling from town to town or it's your hometown. I will say that St. Louis has had a second life, it seems like to me, but you guys I'm 60 miles south of St. Louis, so I have to drive up there to do anything. That is, it's kind of in your backyard. You'd be able to speak to it more intimately than I, but it seems like, in this post-COVID world, if you will, that St. Louis has kind of realized that it had something special and has really started to turn out and support the local artists and the DIY venues, places like we mentioned, the Sinkhole, one of my favorite places to catch a show, Platypus, one of my favorite places to catch a show off Broadway, another one of my favorite venues to go see stuff at, depending on what the size of the band and the bill is that, and what type of crowd that they're dictating. Those are very hot spots. And I know there are other good spots, but those are some of my personal favorites as well.
people are hungry right now, and it's really cool. I like to joke that like when I was playing shows and other bands between like 2013 to 2018 or whatever was kind of like the dark areas when I was like
I
most.
agree. It is rough.
And it's really cool now to see it's not just hardcore shows, it's kind of across the board. Hardcore, pop punk, metal, more like even stuff outside of aggressive music in general. But like it's really cool. Kids are hungry, they're showing out, they're moshing, and like learning the words for local bands and stuff. Like I feel like I spent so many years. I'm a bit younger than the rest of these guys, just being the youngest guy in the room. And then like a switch flipped, and now I'm the old head. And all the the fuck happened. It's a positive thing.
It's also fortunate right now where we're at because we have people like Jake Meyer from Direct Measure.
ML just
Homie.
He's constantly working to bring in shows. So shit, Danny Blaze books for us, but like we're working on expanding and making his footprint a little bit bigger. But like just I mean, when I was coming up and young, I mean there was people like Luke Mikowski and Joe Hess, and I mean that was like the scene for a lot of people hanging out in Cherokee and South Grand, and it really does sometimes break down to 2 or 3 people who are making things happen. Creepy Crawl stayed open because of Justin Mink for a long fucking time. Now that guy was working for Clear Channel by the end of his booking career. I mean, because Justin, I saw the Locust play fucking Creepy Crawl.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's really crazy how much St. Louis gets reflection whenever 1 or 2 people really grit down and do the work.
Because without them bringing the bands to town, none of this shit happened.
Right. I don't think people realize how much work Mink ever did back then when we were coming up. But Jake is definitely one of those people that he's nonstop, you know. It's really inspiring.
Jake, such a good dude. Love that guy. I really hit it off with him whenever they played the punk rock flea market a few years ago. I think they started out the set by him like calling out like bigots and shit like that, and which is like kind of an obvious thing for everybody here to be like, oh, that's a terrible thing. But you know, it's you have to kind of do that nowadays because those terrible people have been empowered to show their face in public nowadays, you know. So he was calling card right out the front gate. He was like, if you're a bigot, you're not down with trans people, fuck off, get out of here. This band isn't for you. Immediately I was like, all right, this guy's going to be my new best friend.
One at Keener Plaza.
Yeah.
How cool to see that there.
I agree. Yeah.
Oh, this is just people going to like get drunk after, you know, if there's a Millie Fans Cardinals and now there's hardcore bands calling shit out and people are getting down. It's really cool. Really cool to see that.
Absolute mad props to him. And Tony, you kind of touched on some of this too. You know, it's really important throughout time to have had those important people in booking positions. I've had Justin on the show previous, Justin Mink, that is, from Not Waving But Drowning, Two Hands, One Engine. We talked a little bit about his time at Creepy Crawl booking there, and like he even threw to, because I'm always curious to hear, you know, he obviously booked a lot of amazing shows there, had an amazing run at Creepy Crawl. Creepy Crawl might be my favorite venue of all time, personally, just because, you know, it was a Pandora's box for me, you know, kind of realizing that there was this whole underground scene, if you will, just to kind of, you know, put it simply. And there's all these bands that they don't play on, you know, FM radio, you know. Yeah, this is even before, you know, the boom of, you know, satellite radio, and, you know, high-speed internet was kind of a foreign thing. I was a senior in high school, and then we finally had DSL. So, you know, it was hard to find new bands, new music, and picking the brain of Justin, asking, you know, like, where did you even get the idea for some of these bands? And, you know, he had connections. He pointed back to Vintage Vinyl. A cat that worked at Vintage Vinyl, you know, was giving him a lot of recommendations about bands that were coming up. So there's always kind of like people that kind of pass that torch or that baton. And that type of stuff always interests me. And, you know, Justin had a great impact on our area down here. So he would send a lot of shows down to the Farmington area. So we had places like Barbarino's, a pizza place that had a patio. Sometimes they'd have shows inside. That was a big place for shows. We had a place called the Rock House. We had Nature's Cup. We had a couple other, you know, VFWs, places like that would host shows down in this area. So Justin, not only was he getting amazing shows up in St. Louis, but he was feeding people like Joey O'Farrell down in Farmington. You know, Joey, of course, has had a run up in St. Louis as well as a great booker and live events promoter. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy to see how those seedlings kind of get passed along, those batons get passed along. And the impact that it has, because if it wasn't for, you know, I can even go back and say, if it wasn't for those things, you know, I even booked shows down in the Farmington area and stuff. I lived above Nature's Cup. I helped them with shows there. You know, had the honor of throwing the Last Flight Home EP release, their last EP that they did there. And those people inspire you, you know.
That's our base camp, just so you know. Yeah, it's Marcus's old base camp from Last Flight Home. It's spray painted LFH on the side of it still, actually.
Hell yeah. I never picked up on that. That's sweet. Hell yeah.
Part of the Tolex is ripped off, but it's there.
Well, Marcus is a longtime homie of mine. We went to high school together. Well, he's a few years ahead of me, you know, about 3-4 years older than I am. But yeah, Marcus is a longtime homie. I've known those guys. I've known Marcus since I was a kid, but, you know, Calvin and the rest of them since I was a teenager. They were always, you know, great stewards in the scene. And I think it's really important to have people like that. You guys, whether you know it or not, are doing that and have done that yourselves, you know. And it's kind of funny to talk about the dichotomy between, you know, Chris, Thad, Tony versus Luca being the younger statesman in the band. But, you know, Luca's turning around and having an impression on people younger than him in the scene as well, too. So it's a beautiful thing. And it's cyclical. And even whenever you don't know it, you're making an impact on people.
Totally. That's why we do it.
Hell yeah. Well, I love getting to know you guys a little bit better. I think, you know, once you guys get more and more opportunity, more reps out there, and I think this Coalesce show is definitely going to do a lot for you guys as well. I'm really excited to see what you guys have in the works. I know that, as everybody knows that pays attention to what we do, as bands release things, even post their appearance on our show, we'll be rebroadcasting, re-amplifying that stuff, sharing what you guys have popping out in the works, whether that's music video, shows coming up, new tracks, new EP, bodies of work. We're going to keep sharing that stuff for you guys as well.
Well, we appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello, this is Barrett from the ATI podcast, here to talk about the MANIC Compression Group. The various podcasts that make up the MANIC Compression Group include ATI Podcast, Waxing On with R&J, Nod Narb's Closet from Ed Ozen, and It's Just Two Movies. The MANIC Compression Group is a voice for the voiceless, a platform for those dream chasers. The various creative arms of the MANIC Compression Group all have one goal in mind, and that is to bring a spotlight to underground artists and amazing artistic works. ATI Podcast, hosted by yours truly, focuses in on interviewing rising artists, content creators, and small businesses. Waxing On with R&J, hosted by brothers Ridge and Jake Jackson, gives love to physical media. It promotes purchasing physical media as a means to support artists, album reviews, details on production and audio quality on various formats, all with the end goal in mind to give some love to some amazing artists. Outside of the physical media love, you're going to get reviews on recent concert viewing experiences as well as local show calendars. Narb's Closet focuses in on miniature painting, the D&D world, role-play games, as well as various niches in the hobbies of 40k Warhammer, Dungeons & Dragons, and tabletop RPGs. Led by Brandon Stewart of Ed Oz Inn, Narb's Closet brings attention to the many talented people involved in the hobby. It's Just Two Movies, hosted by Dan King in a rotating guest panel, covers just that, 2 movies. One critically acclaimed or favorably viewed, and a secondary movie probably not good, but the hope is that it is so bad that it's entertaining. Sit back, enjoy some libations to the velvety tones of Danny King and guests with an injection of jocularity and improv comedy. The MANIC Compression Group can be found across all podcasting platforms, but the full experience can always be enjoyed on YouTube. We thank you all. Stay safe out there.